Hi, I'm Ben from the Self-Tape Audition Studio, and today in this VIP video we are talking to entertainment accountant Tony Nagle. Tony, thank you so much for letting us take over your office today.
Well, it's a pleasure to be here.
It's coming up to tax time.
Yeah.
What would you say are the top things that actors should know about doing their tax?
Probably the first thing, that actors are taxed the same way as a farmer would be taxed. They'd be called, or even an AFL footballer. They're special professionals, so that their acting income is treated in a different manner to their ordinary income. So if they're working in a day job as a waiter, that would be treated like every other bib and bob in the country, but the acting income is averaged over a 5-year moving period. The majority of tax accountants don't really deal with this, so you should probably be dealing with someone who knows how to deal with that. Because if you have a really, really good year, one example was a guy came out of film school and then basically got a very big gig on an American show, and would have saved him probably close to $20,000 to $30,000 in the first year of tax, because it was his first year. So the first 1 or 2 years, if you do really, really well, income averaging is just like free money from the government, and the legislation still exists, and it's designed to support people whose incomes fluctuate over a period of time.
Yeah.
So, but once you're in the system, you have to stay in the system.
Okay.
The other things would be, obviously, if you've got an agent, which everyone needs to have these days, not always easy to get an agent. You should make sure you get a statement from your agent so you can claim your agent fees. MEAA fees, union fees are deductible. Audition costs are not deductible. Maintaining an appearance is not deductible. Even if you have a gymnasium membership, you can really only claim it for the period that you are working, and your contract would need to stipulate that you need to maintain a certain physical appearance. So there's a lot of misnomers about what you can and can't claim, but looking for work is not deductible. But rehearsal costs are. So it's a very odd profession in that way, in that you kind of can't not audition. It's quite unfair on a lot of levels.
Just to clarify, the audition costs, so coming to the Self-Tape Audition Studio and getting a receipt for an audition, is not tax deductible.
Not deductible. And wow. There's a lot of self-taping costs now, where people will basically self-tape and then send it overseas in the hope that you might get picked up for pilot season or something like that. And that's so common now, and none of it's deductible, because looking for work is not deductible.
And that crosses over into other jobs as well. So if
Everything.
You're looking for a job, being a waiter or whatever, or the petrol costs to get to all those job interviews, they're not tax deductible.
Yeah, right. And if you get a haircut for a specific role that you're trying to get and you don't get it, then you can't. So
does that differ though if it's for a show reel scene, so you're producing your own content that you're getting haircuts or you have?
I think show reel's reasonable, because basically show reel's really more promotional advertising, and it's a normal expense. Strangely enough, your first headshots are not deductible, but your second, third, fourth ones are.
Yeah. Wow.
Because it's a bit of a chicken and the egg thing with the ATO. They like to see that basically went and did all these acting workshops and then got a job and had never acted before. All the acting workshops that you've done would be non-deductible. But if you got a job as an actor, were in the business of, and then did workshops, then they would be claimable.
Right.
So you have to have the experience and be doing it as an ongoing profession beforehand. I've had scenarios where people's expenses are far outweigh their income that they generate from it. But that's the nature of acting.
Yeah, right. So just to clarify again, once you are in the business of acting, any workshop, any course, seminars regarding acting is deductible.
Absolutely, as long as you are, it's a continuing profession that you're pursuing. Yeah.
And the same with headshots.
Secondary headshots, totally fine, and ongoing from there. And if you are maintaining, what I would say to people though is, if you are working on a specific show or whatever, try and get the production office to pay as much of your costs as you possibly can. If you're travelling away, try and get per diems. I try and structure a lot of actors, work with the agents a lot more now in terms of structuring deals, so the actor doesn't need to claim the expense, because you've got to remember, if the deductions, if it's going to cost you, if they want you to work as a local, which is really common now, and your accommodation is, say $3,000, and you're maintaining a residence back in Melbourne, sometimes it's not deductible. Right. So basically, you're always better to get the production office to pay for it, because then you don't even need to deal with it. It's their problem, not yours. And it's also that kind of thing of with chasing tax deductions, you've got to remember that the most you'll ever get back is your top tax rate, which for most people would be no more than 34 cents in the dollar. So what do you want? Do you want $1 or do you want 34 cents? Clearly $1. Yeah.
So what would you say the benefits of having a professional doing your tax rather than doing your tax return yourself?
I don't get many vanilla tax returns where it's just acting income and everything's amazing. Generally it's like, I think I've got my record. Someone's, I think, who does a lot of voiceovers, had 45 group certificates 1 year. Like 45, that's a lot of organisation, got to be this job there, and then they had ABN income as well. So it's not a particularly linear profession, and there's a lot of record keeping involved. That's why an agent is fantastic, because it's a centralised point. And what I also do recommend organisationally with a lot of performers is you try and have one bank account where you can just quarantine all your expenses in. So, so when you're at the pub, you use a private credit card. When you're at Officeworks or buying sound equipment or whatever, you would use the business card. So at least you capture it in a small kind of number of transactions. We're not that interested in what you spend in your private life, so don't give it to us. Yeah. And it's cheaper, it's easier, because you can see it's easier for you, it's easier for us.
So what are the cut-off times for lodging your tax returns at the moment, whether you're doing it independently or coming through an agent?
31st of October. If you're registered with an agent, generally speaking, it'll be the 15th of May of the preceding year. So you've got 10 and a half months. Mm-hmm. So it's a decent time frame. But once you're on an agent's list, the agent can look up when you are due. If you've been late previously, it'll be the end of October will be when you have to lodge. We just every year just send out multiple email reminders to people. The thing you got to remember is the ATO are getting quite aggressive around fining people. So if you are late, I'm pretty much guaranteed you'll get an $850 fine. Yeah, so wow. Which is non-deductible. So it's straight out of your beer money, basically. Yeah. So it does make sense. Look, it's boring, I know, to do your tax, but effectively everyone's got to do it.
And so would you advise people get straight onto their tax as soon as possible, and then...
As soon as you can. I mean, if you've done a heap of work during the year, you're probably better off to wait to September, October, principally so that all the information from the employers can load into the tax office report. And make sure you've got a good agent who will give you a proper summary at the end of the financial year. Most of the larger agents tend to do that, and then they run a trust account. I mean, if you just get group certificates for the year, I'm very much for people doing it themselves. But if you get a big gig on a Neighbours or something like that, and you can work for 12 months, then you should be seeing someone like moi, because you can use income averaging to minimise your tax position. And you won't be able to work it out yourself. And the vast majority of tax accountants wouldn't know how to deal with it. There's probably about 4 or 5 in Melbourne, I would think, would know how to do it, and probably pretty similar in Sydney. Actors should really avoid setting up companies in this country because of the rules. And also, if you do set up a company as an actor, you can't use income averaging because the income changes character as it moves through there's all these rulings around it. So if someone says you should become a company, and you can there's personal services income rules make that very prohibitive. So I wouldn't be recommending it to 99.9% of people. Yeah, right. Yeah, it's only the really high-end people that would use companies. And
so accounting fees are tax deductible?
Oh, totally, yeah. And you'll find that most people who work in this area, they don't charge huge amounts compared to the corporates, and we're probably lower middle, I reckon. And philosophically, I've sort of set this business up to be more a supportive thing, I suppose. I don't really come from the position of, trying to make hay from actors. I mean, I'm a very accidental accountant. I never wanted to be one, but I've become one because it's what we do, what my family does. And, I kind of wanted to work in film, so that's why I became an accountant. So, you've got to kind of help people along the way. Anything else that we should cover from an actor's perspective as far as their tax? It's just about being organised, really. I'm really very much about people having a bank account for private, a bank account for business, and you use different credit cards for each, and get a good agent, and good luck. Yeah, fantastic. Tony, thank you so much for your time. Pleasure. Stay tuned for more videos from the Self Tape Audition Studio.